Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
You looking at, boy?
Your joyful, exuberant, effervescent personality.
Yeah, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
I feel like some people would call it annoying and egotistical.
Well, that's what it's called when you're young, I think. You have so much energy that older people, or women don't know what to do with all of it, so they just have to have labels. So here you go. Person that has more energy than I do.
You know, and it's crazy. I don't really have that much energy in the mornings until I go work out. Like that like gives me the energy to be this, I don't know,
Personality.
Yeah. Joe Dickerson. Nope. Chad Dickerson. Does it matter?
Not to me.
Okay.
But the rest of the world who knows me wouldn't know who you were referring to.
I mean, that could be a good thing.
I don't care at all.
It's like, what if you say something bad on here?
When people refer me to a white person, I'll give them the name Joe. If they address me without any articles, then I'll be Chad.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I love about New Orleans is, this is a prime example of it. The fact that I met you and we had an awesome conversation, and it's just like a random, like, happenstance meeting, right? Like, I think you were actually going to you were trying to aim for Cure, but somehow you guys walked into here, and it was just an awesome experience.
Yeah, I agree. Do you believe in fate or having your experiences affected by things outside yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe that we cross paths for a reason. And I'll tell you a really cool story about this. So I'm into like very esoteric things, consciousness and whatnot. One time I was in the bar and I was having a conversation with someone about the chakras and how they kind of line up with the endocrine system. And this person also taught yoga, and they were like, hey, I have a book that I think you should read. And this was like someone I would have never, spoken to in a million years, but we just happened to cross paths one day and we're having this conversation. And they brought me this book, and the book was called The Science of Yoga. And that book changed my life.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, I would have never known that book even existed if that person wouldn't have walked into my life at that point in time, whenever I was like studying these things.
I have built my own philosophy that I call unbelieve. And due to it, I started out as an atheist. Well, I started out in life as a hardcore Christian, but when I left religion, I didn't like it very much. So I was kind of...
What was the issue with it?
I guess the same ones that I have now, which are, if you believe that it's in God's hands and everything is going to be fine, then you have no motivation to be part of it. It's part of its steering in a more rationally collectively beneficial way. It's just going to happen the way it's going to happen, which is why I don't believe in fate. But I also don't believe that there's not fate. I see things happen in my life all the time that just don't add up without special circumstances or something. But
I guess it depends on what you mean by fate. Because I don't believe that there's like a set path for me, but I do believe that people come into my life for a reason.
Okay, I'm curious about this colloquialism. Everything happens for a reason. I always have been. What is that? If you believe, it's like Calvinism and Christianity. The Calvinists believe that the people that are going to go to heaven are already chosen by God before they are born. And because of that, they reluctantly accept that your lives are predestined and you really don't have any free will at all.
Mm.
And I kind of see that if I believed in fate, or if I believed in anything, really, God, anything, I think that there's little codes in the Bible that warn people of the reasons why I don't like Christianity, which are, to give you an example, God said, don't use my name in vain. But in church, as a community member of the church, you really don't get an explanation about why that is. You just don't say God all the time. Definitely don't say GD, that sort of thing. But what if you're being warned with that command that you're setting your mind to believe God is something that it isn't? So that every time you give a thing a name, it becomes a thing. And maybe that's dangerous. Maybe that whoever wrote the Bible knew that. And that's why I don't believe in fate. But I also I don't believe that fate doesn't exist either. I just love that there are mysteries that I'll never know the answer to, and I don't want them until I need them. If for aliens, for example, if it becomes somehow important that I know whether there are aliens and if we're alone or not in space, then I guess I will make a determination of whether I believe one, whether I think there are or aren't.
Well, at that point, you wouldn't have to, right? Because you would just be able to see them.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, like seeing is believing, but at the same time, like I want to go back to what you just said about giving something a name.
Okay.
Like, what do you mean by that?
If when I'm Chad, there's a whole lot of shit that goes along with that. Thank goodness. When you're like, what am I besides my memories, right? As clearly as I can recollect them, and then my physical body, but my physical body and my memories are literally, they have never stopped changing ever.
But that's what you are to you. But to me, I don't know what your memories are. So
Right.
You're the guy that I've met and the experiences that I have with you.
Right. It's all your memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, I think that this gets pretty weird and out there, even for me, but that's kind of how I think of self too, is like, I am the events that I had with you. There's very little separation there. I am all of these things that I either remember or don't remember happening as my environment. But that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make, is people, we make these clear distinctions as we're growing up before we even start thinking about where I am as opposed to where the environment is. And that's giving a thing a name, like defining it. A thing is this, and it can't be anything else.
I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that we're individualizing something that is like an actual collective. It's like we are God.
Yes.
And then whenever we say I'm Kyle, that's like taking away from the fact that no, I'm actually a small piece on a large organism called the Earth, which is also a small piece in a large organism called the universe, which is God. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to nitpick either. I think it's just important to hold on to know that idea is occurring, because I think that I think humanity has become extremely destructive to its own environment, specifically because it stopped seeing life as an event. It now has atoms, it now has parts that we can, like, it's basically a puzzle. There's only a few pieces we haven't found and put together yet, which is ridiculous. Like, for me, the way that religion and science and everything makes sense together is to not think of there's as far as you look out with a telescope or as far as you look in with a microscope, there's always more, right? Mm-hmm. Every time that they find a new boundary, then they find out that wasn't a boundary at all. There's just more shit. So from the naming of parts view of life, we composed the Big Bang Theory and made a whole lot of assumptions about how life works from that theory that we just assumed for years was accurate. But the Big Bang Theory is all based on the fact that there was a time when there was nothing and then everything just came into existence. And after seeing it this as an event, it's impossible to see life that way anymore. Where like what happened before that, you know?
Yes, I mean, where did it start? How do you explain that?
Yeah, I don't think that there ever has been a beginning, and I don't think that there has ever been an end. In the same way that I don't think that when you die, there is ever going to be a moment where you stopped existing. You just, okay, back to the scripture shit. I am that I am. I didn't understand what the hell that verse and even in context meant at all for years. I just took it for granted. And then someone was, as a joke, I think, was saying, oh, I am that I am, and I'm that I am, and I'm that I am. And when the concept occurred to me that the I am, the thing that makes Chad get up and walk around and decide to have coffee or not have coffee, there's that coupled with my memories is what makes Chad. And all those cells have been replaced a whole bunch of times in my lifetime already. So I'm not the same thing that I was born. So what am I then? Is that question useful at all? And I find that it isn't. But as long as I'm looking for what I need to do next, then what I am is something for you to figure out as I'm passing by, right? That life is an event. It's not a thing with a specific genetic sequence or whatever.
So would you say that I guess would you say that this is like ego death is what you're kind of talking about? The fact that you no longer like see yourself as a self?
I think that I see myself as a self as it's convenient now. Once you identify your ego, that's step one, right? But most people think that when you find it, you're supposed to murder it or something, but you absolutely have to have it. I think the trick is to make friends with it, to know it's there and how it operates, how you've decided over these years to interact with people from your reality in a way that doesn't disrupt theirs. That's your ego, like your patterns, the thing that you made up to represent you, your component self, you know?
So what would you say gave you that perspective?
Drugs. That's what helped me push me over the edge to see it. I kept having these notions that the way I was thinking about the world just was wrong. It couldn't satisfy my questions. And then once I had these visions induced by once on acid, once on mushrooms, and once on salvia divinorum. That was the worst one.
I've heard that's a rough one.
It is terrible. Don't ever do that. But the visions that I saw didn't seem to have anything to do with one another when I had them. But years after, my brain kind of broke and then put them all together. And the overall theme was you can't die. Like death is an illusion. It's the silliest thought. And because you think because it's so absolute to you, and you're so certain of it, it has total control over you, and you make all of your decisions based around how much time you have and before you die. You don't die. You're just wearing a thing. And it would be disingenuous, hypocritical, and all sorts of other things for me to say that I behave this way all the time, because I know that I'm a particle collection just like you are too, as well as this other thing that I'm suggesting that I am. But and that's can't be neglected. Like you were talking about, you feel so much better when you wake up and work out. Your body, is a material thing that has its own needs, but I think it's unhealthy to take our material point of view into more esoteric, spiritually oriented questions.
What do you mean? Like you're saying, so here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that why is my microphone sounding weird today? It's going to be bad if it doesn't even pick up anything. But no, what I'm hearing is you're saying that yeah, what you're talking about is like, it's kind of like high and mighty type stuff. You're talking about esoteric philosophies and things, but that you're not always that guy. That sometimes that you like to bring it back to reality too. And you say, I am a human having a human experience, even though I am talking about these things right now.
Yeah. Like, to answer it one way, just ask yourself, where is God? Right. And if your answer is the guy is in the sky somewhere on this extraplanar cloud or something, he has a GPS location, then I think your mind is looking if you're looking for spiritual unity, I don't think you're ever going to find it there. You got to find it within, separated, right? Your physical self from your spiritual self. But
yeah, to me that's what it is. I think God lives within all of us.
Yeah.
And in order to connect with God, you have to connect inside of yourself. That's why because drugs changed my life too. I don't even call them drugs anymore. I just call it mushrooms, psilocybin.
Yeah.
Psilocybin took my life in a totally different direction. I was dealing with depression. I was battling with all these like weird thoughts, and one of them was death. And I was doing that because it's been taught to us our entire lives. You're gonna die. Fear this. You're gonna go to heaven, hell, all this bullshit. And then I read that book, The Science of Yoga, and took some psilocybin and stuff and started going that direction, like just following their teachings. And it changed my entire life. Like I actually died one day in one of my trips. It was like a meditative trip. It wasn't just like a trip.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was doing was I wasn't taking mushrooms and going out in public and like experiencing life that way. I was taking mushrooms in a dark room.
Right.
And I was meditating with myself. And instead of like having this external stimuli, being more vivid based on the psilocybin, I was actually going internally. So the internal self was able to actually manifest and come out and basically say, what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of what like woke me up to it, I guess.
I like to, have you ever heard of the electrical model of the universe?
Yeah.
I really like it. Again, I don't believe anything, but it seems to make a lot more sense to me than any other presentation on that sort of theory. But that's, if you could imagine, that's how I think of what my life is there's this current. It's going to keep going that way. In fact, I use this kind of visual look at my life and what I am and how I'm, all of that to determine what's right and wrong. People seem to have such a hard time with that. Like, it's so relative. But I think that's almost 100% of the time total bullshit. And here's how, if I really struggle with what's right and wrong, this is how I figure it out. Okay, what in this situation, what options am I presented? With each option, how does each option affect the environment or people or things around me? And do any of these options affect others less or more positively than the others? And that is where right comes from, because you could make the same decision in 5 different scenarios, and the argument for relativity is going to make a lot of sense, because it'll be more or less right or wrong depending on context. But the context is your environment. If I do this, is it going to affect the water supply in my neighborhood? If I do this, is it going to break the heart of my neighbor when I sleep with his wife? Whatever. Like, how many people or things am I going to affect with each decision? And is there another decision I can make that will interfere with others' lives less? That is literally right and wrong in a handbasket to me.
It makes sense to me. I think the people that have an issue with the right and wrong argument are people that are typically doing a lot of wrong.
Yeah.
So they don't want to see it as right and wrong. I have an ex-girlfriend that has an issue with this.
Shocker.
Now, we were having an argument about it one day. I was like, there is a right and wrong, and she didn't want to hear it.
Yeah. No, it's relative.
Yeah.
It's
she didn't even say that. She's like, I don't believe you. And I'm like, okay, whatever. This is not going anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to look at right and wrong, though. Like, how many people am I going to affect if I make this decision?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you get so far as, like, this is another thing that kind of pissed me off about Christianity forever, is that
ask for forgiveness.
Well, they literally think that all of this is for humanity. Every single thing that is in existence was built for humanity.
Dude, I hate that fucking argument.
It makes me so angry. But and
they're not the only religion that think that too.
No.
Like, that's a religious mindset, I think.
I think you start off, in order to have religion, you have to have a good idea and then infect it with humanity. Like, because you're inserting that material self. I'm a human. But if you can separate yourself from that particular point of view and include, well, is this decision going to affect squirrels and trees in some way? And the more inclusive you are with every analyzation of every choice, the more right you're going to be. But as long as you only consider humanity, if it's good for humans, then it's good. And that's what most people do, especially Christians, unfortunately. And then you end up drilling all of the cerebral fluid out of the earth. Like, this is another thing about unbelief. It gives me a lot of loopholes so I can get away from my conscience. But drilling for oil to me is just blasphemy. But as long as I'm alive, I am going to vote for drilling for oil, because as much as I think that it's obvious that this fluid is only in certain places, in specific places in the earth, and we're not positive about how it works, and it's very unique, I don't think it's real smart to be sucking all of it out of there. And you should know what you're doing before you do it.
Well, dude, that's a very interesting thing you just said, that the oil is the cerebral spinal fluid of the earth. Like, that's a heavy thought right there.
I've thought this my whole life. I was like, your body has special oils in it all over the place, that without which you would not be able to survive. Just pain alone. If you took all the fluid out of just your spinal column, you wouldn't get up out of bed the next day. It's got to be there.
Would that kill you?
I don't know if it would kill you. If you could somehow miraculously do it without killing you, though. I mean, can you imagine your spine moving around, or all your nerves with no you're like all your cushions, your disc just being flat?
Well, so as a child, I had a spinal tap. Yeah, because I had some kind of issue when I was a baby.
Okay.
So they had to go in and take cerebral spinal fluid out of my back. And I was too young to even remember this. My parents were telling me about it. So yeah, they tapped me at a very young age. I don't know how much they took out, but
yeah, I don't even like it giving blood because I feel like this system is sealed for a reason.
I agree with that.
I don't want to make holes. It's like
I like that about organs when they remove organs.
Yeah.
So I had my tonsils and adenoids removed too. And
Me
once
too.
again, at a very young age, my parents, they just heard the doctors say, remove these organs, and they didn't question it at all. But as I got older, I started researching it. And I was like, these things actually have a function, because the doctors will tell parents these don't even have a function.
Right.
But we're learning more and more about the body all the time. And those do have a function. Tonsils and adenoids both have a function.
How?
Even my young nephew, he just had his adenoids removed. And I was telling my parents, I'm like, you guys are still fucking doing this? Like, why didn't you stop my sister from doing this? And they're like, well, the doctor told him that their ear canals were underdeveloped. And I'm like, yeah, their ear canals are probably underdeveloped because they eat McDonald's for every fucking meal of the day. Like, if they actually ate some real food, their bodies would develop correctly and they wouldn't have to get all their organs removed. Like, that's just the stupidest mindset ever. Remove something.
It's insane. I want my foreskin back. I want it back now.
Well, it's too late for that.
Yeah.
Have you seen those guys that actually, like, they made some kind of device that stretches the skin back over it?
No.
Like, that's just insane to me. Like, you're not going to get nerve endings back.
No.
But it's crazy that we remove these things. And I mean, it's all done for a reason. Like, they'll tell you that it's sanitary reasons, but it's not. Like, it's so you don't get as much pleasure out of it. So I have this wild theory that involves like bodily energy and stuff. And sexual energy is one of the most powerful energies that there are. But in order to create sexual energy, you must think about the body like it's an electric vessel, right? Okay. And if you're adding energy into the system without expelling the energy, then you're just building up this tension, right? You're building up this energy. So one of the ways that a man can add energy into his system is by stroking it, but he doesn't get off. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah. Now he just builds that energy up, right?
He's tougher than I am.
But I mean, you're building that charge inside of you.
Yeah,
and that's also why they have, what's it called? It's called edging. So you know what edging is?
Yes.
Yeah. So in edging, what are you doing? You're building that tension. And slowly right. And then all of a sudden you just like release all of it at once. And it's like this powerful orgasm. But you're doing, if you build this energy and you have intention where you want it to go, then you can actually aim it to places.
I love it. I'll never do it, but I love it. It's like the Mein Hof or whatever his name is. Wim Hof. Brilliant. Absolutely. I'm not a believer, but I think everything he's done is genius and everyone should have a cold shower. My water heater broke in my travel trailer a couple years ago. And I mean, I had plenty of money to fix it, but I just didn't want to. I just wanted to see if I could, and winter was coming.
Oh, shit.
And I did it, dude. I did it. And this is another one of those moments where, in theory, in the spirit world, that sounds like such a good idea, but I'm going to let you guys keep that. And I'm just going to go to, like, what do they call it in working out? Go to failure. I'm going to go to all the way to failure every time.
So there's actually studies now that say that you don't have to do the full cold shower. You can just get up in the morning and like dunk your face in a bowl of cold water and you still get the health benefits of it. The stuff that Wim Hof's doing, though, is crazy with the breathing to actually create the fire within, create the heat within.
He's a genius.
It's really cool stuff. I mean,
I just don't want to do it.
No, there's no reason to. Like, there's a reason to do like the cold plunge every now and then, because you'll have these health benefits of like decreasing your age. That's the same way as like fasting. Have you ever fasted?
Yeah.
Yeah. So fasting gives you the same benefits though. So if you can do a 3-day fast, your body's going to start. You'll go through something called apoptosis, where your cells basically start eating themselves. So like the bad cells, the cancerous cells will actually eat themselves, and you'll be better for it. Every now and then I do one. Whenever I'm having like whenever I just feel weird or something, or like I have a weird pain somewhere, I'll like do a 3-day fast. And after 3 days, I'm like, fine.
Yeah, those first 3 days is, I don't know what I can say on this.
What do you mean? Have you done it before?
Yes. And I agree with you 100%. There's even a name for it, that apoptosis you're talking about, but I can't remember right now what it's called. But yeah, it takes 3 days to get into that phase. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah, I used to do it with just water. So strictly water fast. And then one of my friends was telling me, no, you can add bone broth. So I started doing liquid bone broth. So I would do the first day was just 24 hours with just water. And then day 2, I would have 1 cup of bone broth added in. And then day 3, I would do 2 cups.
Do you still do it pretty regularly?
I do it once every 6 months. Yeah. But I mean, I have to like, it would be hard for the average person to do it because if you're working a 9-to-5 job, you're going to be irritable. Like for me, I have the good fortune of having this area right here and living my life the way I do, where I have 3 days that I can set aside occasionally and go, okay, I'm going to fast for days. No one fuck with me. I'm going to be mean. No one mess with me.
Well, in my line of work, I can just get in my cab and I don't have to deal with people, which is why I do what I do. Yeah, it's ironic that whole conversation about material versus, or the event versus the material existence I just started blurting about or whatever, because I was thinking about Norse mythology, Odin's 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin, and how clever it, like Hugin is representative of thought, and Munin represents memories. And I thought, what a weird distinction for these old cats to have come up with. And I was thinking about that on the way over here and how that kind of shows, it like illustrates this idea that I think has made my life work so much better, is looking at things as an event. So it's really good to be smart, right? And be able to read books and understand what they're telling you, and be presented with tasks that don't have a solution and you find one, that sort of thing. That's what I started out in life thinking was the most important thing. But I remember asking a professor in college once how I could become wise. What a question, right? But I wanted to be as wise as the authors that I was reading in English class. And he said, well, it doesn't really work that way. You read a lot of books, but that'll help you be able to communicate it. But you just have to go live life so that you understand, get reference points so that you can compare things. And then long story from that shortened down is it occurred to me eventually that wisdom is an absence of knowledge in a way. It's like when you have enough knowledge that you can start getting rid of some, like this data point is no longer of use to me because I've put these connections together. I understand this relationship between these other data points. So this is no longer important. And so that wisdom thing comes from, okay, I've been worrying a lot lately over politics, and people want to get rid of the First and Second Amendment pretty much these days because of school shootings and shit like that. And I understand the reaction that, like, you want to be protective and people want security and they want to feel safe. And I understand all that. But in order to be a proper American, the reason why I think America is failing so miserably now is because the Constitution of America and the backbone and structure and infrastructure of what America is an idea of freedom, which comes with a terrible lot of responsibility. You have to understand what is required of each individual person for you to have a republic work, to know your responsibilities of shining lights in all the dark corners so corruption can't take it over, to like all of those things. You have to understand the history of the mountain men that first settled the American continent, some Spanish, some French, some English. But the point is, they were all independent. They were all able to live their lives without other people. They did it. And then, so when the people that were writing the Constitution had the task of writing this minimalistic document, that how can we unify a nation without making anyone feel like they're going to lose their liberties? Because if we make these mountain men, these very independent people that settled this rugged land, feel like that our government is just going to be like every other government and they've lost some rights of theirs, there's no way they're going to go with it. Like, these people are wild, but fiercely independent. And we've lost the absolute necessity of remembering that that's the backbone of what America is. If you can't fend for yourself, then you don't have the sensibility and the sense of humor and the thick skin that is required to be free.
Most people can't, though.
Right. Like, people are begging for, like, the First and Second Amendment are there for a reason. If you cannot speak for yourself or educate yourself, then, and you cannot defend yourself, then how can you call yourself free?
But it's hard to do those things, Chad. It's hard to have your own thoughts.
It is.
And it's hard to be a responsible human with a gun. I'd rather just someone tell me what to do all the time.
Absolutely.
And tell me that I can't have these guns, so that way I don't have to have the responsibility.
Well,
welcome to the new America.
The unpopular resolution to that problem was that would be great. You get to be as comfortable as you want. Don't even bother yourself with this shit, but don't vote.
Yeah.
Period. If you are not interested in the complicated ways that freedom works, that's cool, but you shouldn't be voting. If you're not willing to do the work and grind, like, see the consequences of letting these very important pillars of our culture go, you don't understand that. Like, I used to be such a hippie, and I believe that there should be no borders. You can't be proud of the land you were born on. That's silly. Why are we so privileged here and other people are so disparaged other places? Sympathy, running wild. And then it occurred to me one day, I just one of those people that take all of my words seriously because I prefer not to be a liar or a hypocrite. So I was analyzing all these things that I was saying to myself and tending to believe. And it occurred to me that if somehow we holy, righteous Americans were able to, like, voluntarily hand over our government and let everyone just come live as they please, right? Even disregarding the fact that the criminals of all the world would just destroy the security that upon which our free trade is based. But what ever occurred in my mind that made me believe that if there's no U.S. government, that it can just stay like that, static, without a government at all. China will be interested in providing that service to its people, like Britain would. Every government in the world would. They'd be lined up, and one of them is going to have that position where you want them to or not. There's going to be a government.
What caused that change, though, that shift in mindset?
Money, ironically, having things. I was so poor growing up that not having anything, you don't have anything to defend. You think everyone is on the same playing field and should be, right? But as soon as you start acquiring things that are precious to you, even if that's family, you don't have any material goods at all. If you start falling in love with your own life, you will naturally begin to protect it. And that is where all of that stuff comes from.
That's an interesting thing to say, because I feel like today there are a lot of really poor people in the country. And that's probably why they think that. They have that mindset.
Absolutely. Not only is it exponentially more difficult to just get by right now, but also there are so many ways created. Just in my lifetime, there are so many pathways to offer people just the bare necessities without having to work for anything at all. So the motivation for doing anything at all, having a job, much less having your own land, and it's hard to blame people on one hand for not being more motivated, but at the same time, it's your life. Like, again, if you want to do nothing with your life, then I totally support your choice to do that, but please don't interfere with mine. Then it's that I take that approach. I'm so proud to be a Texan now, because the cultural root of what a Texan is, after years of looking back on it, is stay in your lane and get out of people's way. And if you actually do that and not just say it, you leave people alone until they fuck with you, and you actively be aware of people as they are around you and stay out of their way and let them live their lives. Don't interfere. To the degree that you can do that, though, it tends, in my experience, it tends to make me make my temper worse, not better, because it becomes more and more obvious how few people are trying with the least effort. Like
they're just getting by.
Yeah, it's so easy to get from the house to here without affecting other people's lives. But some people just can't be bothered to get out of the left lane. Some people can't be bothered at a grocery store to look around them to know that they have their buggy cutting off the entire aisle. Like most people, not some, but most people in America.
I understand what you're saying, and I see that. I see the same thing, and I often wonder, like, why? Why are these people this way? Because, like, for me, I see everything around me always. And like some people just, like, their minds are just so, like, right here. And is it really them, or is it something else? I
think they're all hypnotized because they can be. Like, everyone does what they can do, right? If you give people options to zone out, if you give me the option to sit in front of my video game and play it all day, every day, that's what I'm going to do. Like, I can talk a big game. Eventually I'll get bored and I'll go do some shit for myself. But if I can, I'm going to take a month off every now and then, just do nothing. Well, I mean, that's objectively wrong living.
You gotta have a balanced life.
Yeah, I agree. As long as you're producing enough during your production that you can sustain yourself when you're balanced, chilling, then it's all good. So I don't feel bad about my leisure. But I would say the majority of people now are just ducking out of life entirely. And that's on my dime. Whether we want to believe it or not and talk about fiat currency and all that stuff, all that's true, but it doesn't change anything in real life. Like society needs you. Everyone here. That's why I'll say something else horribly controversial. I cannot stand illegal immigration. Don't give a shit what anybody thinks about it. And it's like those people, let's use Mexicans for example. It's going to sound racist, but it's not, because Mexican isn't a race. But I don't really like Mexicans, because my experience of Mexicans is they allow cartels to hang their little babies up on telephone poles and shit. That is Mexican culture. When you talk about going to Mexico, these are like highlights, features that you will discuss with yourself before you enter into that environment. These are known attributes of your culture. Now, from the outside looking in, I'm certain that Mexicans look at the United States and have as many complaints as they can come up with. Those are my problems. All right. It's my job, having been born here, to address those problems. It's going to be almost impossible for me to address those problems, however, when there are millions of people that have no idea how freedom works and the free market and all that shit, like staying in the right lane when you're not passing, that kind of those little features that make our American culture so unique and profitable and dynamic, easily adaptable, can take on people from other cultures as long as they're willing to contribute. All that shit's important. I can't stand those people because they don't want to be part of this.
Yeah, you don't like freeloaders. You like people that contribute to society.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you think about the fact that, AI is coming in and taking people's jobs and stuff like that? Do you think that, how do you factor that into this?
It's kind of like aliens to me. I don't feel like I have no decision I make has any result on AI, how it's used or what develops from it. I have no say-so in the matter whatsoever. So it really doesn't, until this point, it hasn't affected me enough for me to care. On one hand, I think that it's a sad shame that we have deferred everything. Literally, we want to defer our labor. We want to defer our thoughts. Give me a prepackaged, single-serving idea that I can apply to everything. There's religion. Give me politics, same thing. Give me these. I just, on the one hand, AI fixes some of that. We've created a vacuum of intelligence and creativity. So AI fills in that gap well. So on one hand, it's sad that we're losing the humanity in it, right? On the other hand, if AI can do things better than humanity can do them, then AI has won the free market battle and deserves its position as taking over. Also, another unpopular opinion of mine is that the population is so absolutely disgustingly absurd, and it explains literally all of this shit, that maybe AI will create enough hiccup where the more intelligent of us will somehow survive the outcome, and the completely ignorant who can easily be replaced by digital intelligence need to be gone. As sad as that is, people have a problem with population because as soon as you say the word, they assume that you want to kill everybody. But there's so many ways to address the situation without any violence whatsoever.
Such as?
Okay. if you want to have abortions, all the abortions you want, I vote that you're free to do it. As long as when you know that if you can pay cash for your abortions when you walk in, then you can have all the abortions you want. If you can't pay for the abortion, and it should be expensive, then when you sign up for your abortion, fuck all that. If you want to abort babies, you get one free. And then when you go in for your abortion, they're going to abort the baby. I don't care if the baby was going to be born tomorrow. You get one. And then when you go in there and you've decided that I just can't produce life right now, fine. We're going to take care of it. Then while we're in here taking this baby out of you, we're going to cut and seal your tubes where you can never have a baby again. It's not that we have too many people. It's that we have so many people that we have shitty people now. If you didn't have very many people, everyone would be awesome. But not just because you're right next to the shitty person, you can punch him in the face so he doesn't get a chance to hide his shittiness, but also because you feel needed. That's what's missing in the world. That's what's missing in modern America. You don't feel connected to anything, hence AI. If we're not connected, we might as well have this other thing do all the connecting for us, connect all the dots for us. Let's defer our intelligence now.
I think that life's just too easy these days.
I agree.
I think in order to make humans that are resilient, they need strain on their life.
Absolutely.
And it's gotten too easy. So now everyone's just like going with the flow. Like you said, they don't have to work. They don't have any resistance in life. They just get up and do what they want to. Where I create artificial resistance in my life. Like I make myself go to the gym. I purposefully do things. And I have my own reasons to do them. I'll tell you my reasons. I think everything's energy. Okay. So I think that because everything's energy has to be at balance, right? It can't be too much positive energy, can't be too much negative energy. Like the universe will equal itself out, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm putting myself in negative situations, then the universe has to balance itself out by making my life more positive. Okay. So, and going to the gym, that's a negative situation. I hate going to the fucking gym, but I get muscles out of it. Right.
Okay.
But this is the body balancing itself out. But if I put myself in situations like whenever I go home and where my apartment is, I always make sure to park as far away from my apartment as I can. And some people look at me and go, that's such a nice gentleman. He's doing that so everyone else can walk. But I'm really not. I'm doing it because I'm putting myself in a negative situation. That way the universe has to balance myself back out. So walking that extra, 50 feet every time I have to go to my apartment, it adds up on itself. So eventually the universe is going to go, okay, well now he's got this much negative built up. Now let's pause, add it back out and make it let's make something good happen in his life.
Okay, whether you're right or wrong about the way energy refracts and reflects and that sort of thing, whether or not you are or not, would you agree that doing these things to yourself makes you a better person and objectively and you're more aware of other people around you and everything goes from there? Yes. I'm
more aware and the other people around me are more aware too, because like I said, they're seeing me park away from this and they're assuming that it's to help them out. So that also helps me out in a beneficial way, because every time that I need something, they're like, dude, you're such a nice guy. Of course I'll help you out. So yes, me putting myself in those negative situations helps me out in all manners of life. Yeah.
I think that's what has basically black pilled me on most of the world and America now, is because like how old are you?
38.
Okay. You're 38 and you've been working on yourself in these ways for a good many years, right? Mm-hmm. And I am certain, I don't like to say never or certain very much, but I'm certain that you still make mistakes that annoy you sometimes from time to time. Yes. So we have, would you consider that effort, that extra effort you put into just exercising the self, right? Just exercising who you are to hone the person you want to be. would you say that you're in the majority or the minority?
Oh, very small minority.
Okay. I think that minority that we find ourselves in used to be like, we used to be the laziest people in the American culture, period. The amount of effort we put in.
Yeah.
Like, it was necessary. Everyone had to do so many things just to survive, much less be able to communicate over the interwebs.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing the opportunities we have.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have survived back then, man. You're talking about like going to find your own water, going to kill your own animals, growing your own crops.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd have made it.
I think that it would have been, if you had been born in that situation, because of the effort you already put into your own life for no other reason than self-appreciation, I think that it would have been heaven to you. Because the challenge is there before you have to create it, you know? It's part of waking up. It's amazing to me. But look at the proof is just look outside, you know?
Yeah.
99% of the people have no idea that they're even a part of anything. I have this saying, like, sometimes I think of myself as pretty smart, so I say things that sound really smart, and then I write them down. I'm like, yeah, I'm smart. And one of them is to be part of everything is to be everything. To be part of nothing is to be nothing. So when Jesus was talking about in the Bible, I'm of the Father and the Father is in me and all that stuff, I think life really works like that. As long as you see yourself as part of something that's moving, find the thing that's moving that interests you, that you want to be a part of. Think of to the degree that in the times of my life, I have run into opportunities where I could put an event like a way of life before my, like, whatever's going on in my life. Is if I could feel like I was part of something and push something forward. You don't even need credit sometimes. If you're interested in something and you can be part of it developing into something else and growing, it's kind of an ego filtering process, I think.
I feel that way a lot of times. Like I'll join on to certain film projects and stuff, and at the end of it, they're like, what do we need to put in the credits for you? And I'm like, you don't have to put anything in there.
Yeah.
Like it's fun just to like help people do things.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can't even. I never really even talk about all the stuff that I've done in my life, and it's so funny when people hear that I've done something and I've never even talked about it. Like, what? Like, you were a part of that? And I'm like, yeah. So, like, it's
on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's the experience, man. Like, I do things just for the experience.
Yeah. It can be a beautiful life, man, but it's hard. If it's going to be beautiful, it has to be hard, I think.
I believe that.
But why are these people like this? I think you asked earlier. It's because they're all hypnotized. They've never done any of that work. They've never thought that they needed to do anything. They just, from a baby, they grew up feeling like everything is taken care of. Where do I fit in? I don't fit in. The world just gives me what I need. I'm supposed to walk on this wheel and keep it turning. But
I don't think they like it. And I'll tell you why I don't think they like it. Because if you look at the amount of people that are on pharmaceuticals and depression medications, anxiety medications, they're on these because their body's telling them that this isn't right. What I'm doing, the way I'm living my life is not right. I need to be living a different way, but there's no one there to tell them to live a certain way, or it's hard. Like I said, there's those two options. So what do rather than that? They go to the doctor and say, I have this going on in my head. And here, take this pill. It'll quiet the voices down.
If we were in a life 4,000 years ago and you didn't have the instinct to, even though the world is not asking anything of you, but you didn't have the instinct to push yourself forward what do you think would happen to you?
You would die.
Yes. So I think that's the problem, is that we've become so coddling to our culture that no one can do anything wrong, so that we make it possible for people to go their entire lives without figuring out that intuition that they need, and without killing them, honestly. Like, they need to die. Like, that's such a horrible way to judge from one point of view. If
I
you
understand
hear
what
me,
you're saying.
like, I don't want to kill them, but in order for
Nature
life
would.
to work,
You're saying nature would do it.
yeah, you have to take out the trash. If you go to Taco Bell this evening and get a shitload of tacos, when you go home and eat them all because you're stoned, and the wrappers are eventually, there's going to be an efficiency issue. If you leave that trash there, you have to take out the trash. You're forming trash whenever you're just fucking at random and producing humans everywhere. Eventually, some of that is naturally going to be refuse and has to go.
But this is what I'm saying, though. I think the instincts are still there, but I think that the fact that we give everyone pills to mask those instincts is why people are quote unquote the trash. I think that if we didn't solve everything with a pill, then people would actually like either get on board or get off the train.
I'm scared of that we thing. Because I'm afraid that, have you ever been prescribed Ritalin or that stuff?
Yes.
I have too.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you're not taking it right now?
Well, I'm not taking it right now because I can't speak in a conversation whenever I'm on the stuff. Yes.
Well, I think that lots of people who have taken those medicines that keep them in that dazed, hypnotized state. Lots of people have decided that this isn't working either and have stopped taking them, right? Mm-hmm. And that tells me that it's not the person's fault who gives you an easy way out if you take the easy way out.
Yeah, you don't have to take it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have this issue where they can't critically think. And so what do? They listen to everything that people tell them, that they look as I mean, like if you look at your doctor, like he knows what he's talking about, right?
Right.
When he doesn't have a fucking clue. He's literally telling you what he read in a book or what someone told him to tell you. Mm-hmm. And this is where like medical diagnosis comes in. Like no one's actually healing problems. They're just masking the symptoms of the problem.
True. And
so that's what these pills and things are doing. They're masking these symptoms. But if we actually get down to the root of what it is, I think it's what you're talking about. The fact that these people don't have, they're not living the way that humans should be living.
Right.
Where they're seeking new experience and seeking conflict to become better. They're just kind of going through the motions. And that's not healthy for humans.
No. You need to be chased by a lion and see your brother be eaten by that lion. That is I think everyone, when they are 10 years, by the time you're 10 years old, you should have killed, skinned, and eaten a squirrel. Everyone. If you have never had blood on your hands, you should not be allowed to eat.
But this is a Southern raising now. Because I was raised in the South too. So, I mean, that's like a South thing. And it's also where guns come into play. Like from the time I was 6 years old, I had a gun in my hand. Like it's a thing for our family. Yeah. Like let's watch him shoot his first gun.
Right.
Like that's a like rite of passage for a young Southern boy. And a lot of people that live in cities, that grew up in cities, are my buddies that live in New York. They never had guns in their lives. So they're terrified of them. But that's why we're not scared of guns, because they've been, we know proper gun safety from a very young age.
And we understand life a little better because we've taken it.
We've definitely, we have the experiences. Yeah.
But okay. It sounds like when I say things like many of these people need to die, I believe it. Like I am very serious about
Thanos,
that.
Baby.
Yeah, exactly. But it sounds pretty harsh out of context. But so one time there was a time in my life when I stole bicycles Like, I hate it. I hate talking about it, but I did this. I had like 10 bicycles. I'd steal them, take them all apart, put them back together like Frankenstein bikes after painting all the parts so that I could never get caught. One time I was in this garage grabbing these 2 bikes, and the whole family came open the door, and I paused and froze. And then I thought, well, I'm already busted now. That's the worst of it. So I might as well, get 2 bikes out of it. So I ran onto the car with the bikes, and these little kids and their family are watching me run off of these bikes, and they're not going to do anything to me because they don't want their children to see, the results of what should have happened to me, Mm-hmm. But I've thought about that for all of the years since, that I deserved to die that night. Like, I should have been shot in the head. So there's your, everything happens for a reason.
But you don't think that's extreme? Maybe you deserve to get your ass beat, but not die.
No. If you are, from my point of view, if you breach the sanctity of another person's home and safe place while they're sleeping, you deserve to die right then, much less taking shit from them. Period. If you have it in you to take someone else's stuff that they've worked for, they got it somewhere or another. You didn't figure out how to get it. They did. Mm-hmm. But you're going to skip steps and take what's theirs. I think you deserve to die. That's just me.
Well, no, it's according to the art of war. That's also what they would say too. Like, you don't strike someone unless you strike with vengeance where they can't strike back.
Yeah, I totally agree with that 100%. However, now years have passed. I wouldn't steal a penny off the ground. Because of that event, I will not steal. So some people would say, well, don't you think that the being forgiven or God showing you mercy in that event and that you didn't get shot or whatever, don't you think that was the right thing to do? You should show mercy. And absolutely not. Because at this moment, if you're stealing shit from my house, you deserve to die right now. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I hope that you get away and I don't go to prison and you think, oh shit, that was stupid. I'm never going to rob again. But that's a different you. That's a different time. That's a different context. You got away, good for you. Get your shit together, because there's going to be another moment probably if you stay on this path where you're going to deserve to die again. And you keep crossing that line again and again. Of hopefully somebody eventually gets you.
Well, so then
I don't want to kill anyone.
So then it's a good reason that everyone's not lions. I feel like some people are lions and some people are sheep. If that man was a lion that day that you took his bikes, he probably would have came after you. No,
I think that the way that you build a society or maintain a society that is worth having is there are nothing but lions, and the weak lions die.
Well, why didn't the man come after you that day?
Because he felt sympathy for his children is what I assume. But if
how is that sympathetic? Like, his kids need to learn a lesson. He was scared. He was scared you would have took him out.
Maybe. There's a million reasons why he couldn't have, or didn't, or I don't know. I'll never know. But if it were me standing there with my children, I would want to kill that person, but I wouldn't want my children to see me kill that person. That's how I would look at it. Mm-hmm. And it's not, also, when I say these things, people think that I enjoy violence when I absolutely abhor violence. But I think it is a man's responsibility to be violent. That's what our role is to be violent. Whenever standards or borders are crossed, that's our job. That's where we come in. Mm-hmm. Women give us the tender sympathies that direct that violence and draw it in to where our circle of violence hopefully doesn't lead to war. But we're supposed to be violent. We're supposed to be.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson says this. He says that a man should know how to be violent, but then not be violent.
Right. But I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to be harmful in any way. But it is necessary. Like, when I say this person deserves to die, I'm not saying it in that I am the judge. I'm going to hack your head off. Like, I'm saying that you have done the things that like you are making the world harder for other people to live. Therefore, your life is null and void. You can change that at any moment. Just like immigrants coming over. I will cease to hate Mexicans the day that I meet the Mexicans that come across the border into the U.S. and say, I'm American now. They are immediately, like, my complete demeanor toward them changes. Now they're my brother. Now we can hook up our yokes to the same problems in the United States and make the best of the time that we share, right, in this country. But if you come here into America but continue to be a Mexican, that's when I have no sympathy whatsoever. Right. Just like people that die robbing shit, I have no sympathy. I wish I had the strength to kill more of you thieves, but I'm all talk mostly, I believe in these things, but I don't want to be the one. It's like population. I don't want to kill anyone, but it sure would be nice if a whole lot of poor people stopped having kids. Like you shouldn't be able to have children if you've gotten 3-4 abortions in your life. That's crazy to me. If you have 6 kids and you haven't had a job and in the time that since you had the first kid, you should not be allowed. This shit is so elementary to me.
No, I get it. It sounds crazy to me too.
Yeah.
But the people that you have in power right now, the politicians, none of them want to make a mistake. They want to keep their cushy little job. So what do? They try to do what's politically correct rather than actually, doing what's best for the nation. If
they knew back to the event versus thing. Everything in our society nowadays can be given a specific dollar value all over the world. Yeah. So, sort of our fiat currency, if you look at it in the right light, a dollar bill represents a hourly wage in a way. Because it's being traded with other countries, the value of the dollar is really labor force, right?
Yeah.
So the people in power see that and think every human head is more taxed. That's more leverage on the labor value of labor for Americans. So our dollar value is going to be heavier against Iran's currency or Russia's currency, whatever. We have more laborers and they produce better labor and products. That's how America became the superpower that it is. We made the best shit and everyone wanted to trade with us. And we had the most resources because we just took a giant continent from a bunch of people that weren't drilling oil.
Audio big time. Yeah, so basically you're saying that the more people that are here, the more dollar value America has. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm trying to say that that's the way they look at it.
Yeah.
So let's just make as many heads as we can, and that makes our labor force look strong.
I mean, if the birth rate falls, you import people in.
Right.
Which is kind of what's going on right now, too.
Yes.
Because the birth rate has declined.
On paper, to an economist, you just have to add people to the labor force, and that increases your dollar value and takes any kind of leverage from the middle class or the lower class, because the working class is 100% replaceable. But the problem with that is now your culture is now supporting a bunch of people that can't, even if they wanted to get involved in the machinery of the economy and everything else, they don't have the capacity. So it's not about the number. It's about looking at it as like, this person is this digit of money value and labor. That's the thing way of looking at it. But if you look at it as why did our country, with history included, why did our country become so profitable and successful? It's because everyone contributed. As free people, everyone was motivated to accelerate the economy and make everything better. So we were more innovative. It wasn't that we could work harder than anyone else. It
was the quality over the quantity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you inundate a culture with people that benefit from that culture but don't contribute to it, then the mathematical efficiency of this process gets gummed, all the gears get jammed up. So all the people that were building your community, the good people, there are good people and bad people. There are productive people and there are lazy people, et cetera, et cetera. So back in the day, the majority of the people in your American culture were seriously motivated to push forward. Nowadays, they're no more motivated than anyone else because they've been treated like digits, right? So just add people. But if you took the opposite approach and was like, how many people requires an electric plant, right? How many people do we have in this area before we have to build an electric plant? How many people is it that will require a nuclear power plant or an oil well? And you start thinking in terms of relationships, so that can I reduce the number of people and not need that shit and keep my efficiency and keep innovation and productivity alive? That's what you want. You want efficient working class, not a large working class. The larger the working class, the more shit you have. The smaller you have, as long as you could have the same number of people in this country and it still be working just fine. If everyone, you'd just have a better world. If everyone if everyone felt involved and felt motivated to give to the culture, but they don't.
But wouldn't you agree this is like the natural cycle of animals? Is you have an environment and then the animals will increase their population until the environment can no longer sustain them, and then the environment will essentially kill them off?
I think that's a way. It depends. Do you believe that because a thing has always been this way, it must always be this way? Because if you don't...
Well, no, I think that we can change.
Okay.
But I do think that if you look at it from a top-down perspective, like fly out, look at the earth from a top-down perspective, and then take examples from nature, then I think that's literally the same thing going on. So if we take a small population from a forest and we look at it and go, okay, this is what happens when an animal gets overruns this environment. And then we scale out and say, okay, now this is planet Earth is the environment, and these are the animals, humans. And this is what now they're fucking with the environment so bad that eventually the Earth's going to go, okay, it's time to fucking flip the switch. And
before we even get into the attempt at answering that, do you think that it's the Earth's responsibility to do to wipe our ass?
I don't think the Earth gives a shit.
I don't think if there were a God, that would be another reason why I don't like Christianity, is for that same thing. Is like, I don't want, it's because I live right now's problems are my problems. Whether I'm right or wrong to look at it this way, this is how I try to look at it. I am the best God that right now has to offer. And you are the best God that right now has to offer. So if we push things, drill up all the synovial fluid out of the earth and do all of the things, like people talk about global warming. I always found it fascinating that the people I even agree with the most now still insist that human endeavors don't change the temperature of the planet. But if you were just going with the CO2 argument, then you might be onto something. Like I refuse to weigh in on that. There's so many factors and variables. No, thank you. But I have worked offshore in the Gulf of Mexico, and you can count the number of giant ships and oil rigs out there in the Gulf. Every one of those machines have these giant diesel engines the size of a trailer house, and more often than not, several of them. And they are water cooled. The water goes into the exhaust and one temperature and goes out the exhaust and a different temperature to cool those engines off. So you cannot tell me that you're adding thousands of degrees of temperature to the water in the Gulf times, like, I can't even calculate the number of hundreds of gallons or barrels that would be every day. And you're not changing the temperature of the water to a degree that might destabilize the conditions for life in that area. I find that challenging to accept, to say the absolute least. So I agree and disagree on all the sides, but I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, my point was that eventually the Earth's going to just like clap back.
Yeah,
and then humans are going to be done.
Won't it be a shame if that's the way it happens?
No, I think that is the way it happens. I think it happened. I think it's already happened multiple times, and I think that each time humanity gets pretty much decimated and then climbs back out of the ashes, and then we just have like this collective amnesia of what actually happened in our past.
Do you? Oh, well, then I would assume that you believe in reincarnation. Then
I believe that I'm here for a reason.
Okay. Fair enough. The way I look at it is, if life is only here and now, as far as I can see, it doesn't exist anywhere else. And we can assume that there's just no statistical chance that we're the only people in all of this. I see that point. But as far as I can see with your telescopes, I can't see nothing else living or breathing or nothing. So with that experience, this environment becomes the most precious thing in existence. And I think that that's obvious.
In the reincarnation light, I'm a huge fan of Hinduism.
Okay.
So yes, I do believe that reincarnation is a thing, and I believe that certain people reincarnate on the planet during certain times.
Okay.
I believe that the Earth is like an organism.
All right.
So think of it like the human body. Whenever a virus gets in the body, what happens? Your body manifests antibodies, and it goes to work fighting the issues.
Yes.
So I think that the Earth is right now infected by a virus. And I think that people or antibodies are on the planet to actually stop the virus. But first thing to do when you get into a new system is you have to understand the system. So in order to understand the system, before they can actually fix it.
I think that there's an element in there that okay. Joe Rogan got popular from saying that humans, he was describing his DMT experience or ayahuasca something, and said that humanity is a virus. And I got so mad at him because it's true in a way if you look at what we're doing right now. But here's the difference. Humans are the only animals that have language. Therefore, we're the only species that has the ability to look back or forward in time and communicate about that. So, we can, at any given moment, every human in the world can decide to do things very, very differently than they did yesterday. Highly unlikely, but absolutely can. Humans can do anything given enough time and space. So if that's true, we're choosing to be a virus.
Well, I think you misunderstood what I said.
Okay.
I don't think that all humans are a virus. I think humans are a part of the system. Okay. I think that there are some humans that are the virus.
I think that they're choosing to be the virus. They're right. They could stop being a virus and start being a flower any moment.
I don't think so.
Why?
This is strictly my beliefs.
Okay.
But I think that you are the physical manifestation. You're a human, right? Mm-hmm. But there's something inside of you that's telling you to get up and go get coffee or come sit on a podcast, or it's giving you thoughts, right?
The self.
Yeah, that's not the body.
Right.
That's whatever it is attached to you. Okay. So I think that is a separate part of you. So one day when your body dies, that energy, that you, is going to go on somewhere else. I think that those entities that we are can be viruses. So I think that there are certain physical bodies on the planet right now that have these things attached to them that are making them do this chaos.
I don't think so at all. Because of free will. I think that that I am thing, the animation is I look at it like finger puppets, right? The hand is always in there, no matter what the glove does, and no matter how many fingers there are in the glove, it's going to fill it up. So your self can't be a virus and myself be a bacteria, or it's the same self. But I think that God is not aware that he is a human, and human is not aware that he is God. So if I think mortal man is as important to God as God is to mortal man. And I don't even believe in God. I'm just using these concepts to try to steer a picture. What I mean by that is the one of the reasons why I don't believe that I am where I'm supposed to be, or that there is a purpose for me or anything like that, is because I believe in determinism infallibly. Like, I think that you can decide at any given moment to stop being. What being is back again to that. Am I a thing or am I part of an event? Being is an event. So I can, at any given moment, decide that I'm going to spend the rest of my life cleaning up waterways. That's what I'm going to be. I'm not a virus anymore. I'm like if you want to give me an illusion like that, it'll be like a HDL cholesterol unit. Like, I'm cleaning out the fluid ways and the body of God or whatever. Like, if I change my behavior, I am being or becoming something else than I was. You're not a virus anymore. So yes, as long as we're doing viral things, then we're a virus, and we can't argue with it. But it's so like self-defeating to say that this is what I am. I can't be anything else. This is just, I was born a virus. Like, myself, my internal self was just created as a virus. Even though I recognize that, I can't do anything about it.
What makes you think you're a virus?
I don't.
That's what I'm saying. I think that if you look in the human body, there are red blood cells and there are viruses. Red blood cell doesn't even know what a virus is. It has nothing to do with viruses.
Okay.
So like, to ask a red blood cell, if it believes in viruses, it'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I deliver oxygen. So some of the people that you're talking to, like, of course they don't have a clue what you're talking about, because they're red blood cells. They're just part of the system.
Okay. When I robbed that garage,
to even have these thoughts though, that's like,
it is amazing.
But I'm saying that's how you know that it's outside of the box, that you're not really a red blood cell.
When I was in that garage, stealing those bicycles, I was a virus.
Okay.
My behavior was viral. Right. It was related to or having to do with
Was that before drugs?
It was during.
Okay, so before or during the psilocybin and stuff.
Oh, that was before the awakening or whatever.
So I think that there are some people that do have these choices. Like, you can either go bad or you can go good.
Okay. And
I think that those are the people with, free will, if you will say this.
Okay.
And I think that the way the world is structured right now, it teaches people to do the viral way.
Right.
But when you take these substances like psilocybin, they key you back in with a certain harmonic frequency that the earth has. And the earth's like, no, you shouldn't be doing these bad things. You should be going this way.
It breaks your ego for a moment. When I describe weed to people, why I love weed so much, most people smoke weed because they get high, they get stoned. It's from what weed gives them. Mm-hmm. I get high because what weed takes away, because it has this dissociative property in it. It's like the weakest dissociative drug, so that to just the slightest degree, I am separated from my ego for a little bit. I look at myself more than I look out from me, you know? And that's what I love about it, is it's taking something away. And I don't know. I just think that humans are the only thing that get to decide, what am I going to be tomorrow? What do I want to be in the process of becoming over the next couple years? Where do I see myself? That sort of thing. And if you begin to include all of the things that you affect with all your decisions, then eventually you will not be, you can start out all the virus you want, and you can take I put everything in nature. Like, you're absolutely, like, I don't know, man. It's just the lines would take care of this shit. The lines would have already, if there were no lines are still going to eat. We'll eat other lines. You know what I mean? I don't think dude, for me, because I fear no one. And I think I fear no one because I went so deep in myself that I understand what I'm actually capable of. Yeah. And so for me, the only person I really fear is myself, because I'm fucking, in my mind, it's terrifying. The things that I'm capable of. And if I had to eat, I would eat fucking humans. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't even care. It's I would care, but I don't think I would, man.
I would just fucking munch. It's meat.
I think I would have less hard time eating a person than I would killing a person. But I will do either, but I don't want to do either. No, absolutely not. I think it's important to kill, but I don't want to. But I think that it's more important to understand that you need to. Like, the whole idea that the whole world is marching around thinking that everyone deserves life, that is so, like, took the limits off of insane. Like, that is so crazy to me, that you think you can that human life is so important that we can just continue to be a virus without ever looking at whether we could be anything else. Anyway, I don't believe in reincarnation. I think that we decide where God goes from here. We decide where the world, the universe, what it becomes. Like, it's figuring itself out. You said you don't believe in reincarnation, but then you also said that, like, whenever you die, you're going to go on to something else. Like, what do you think that is then? I think that right this second, I am being Chad Dickerson. Mm-hmm. I am being you. I am also being Abraham Lincoln. I am also being some alien shit in the future. So you think you'll just go back to, like, source, whatever that is? I don't think that I was ever outside of source. That's the key. That's what makes the Christian Bible so interesting to me, is because you're never outside of God. Every living thing is in God, and God is in it. At all times, your cells, everything. Every religion agrees on a very few things. One of them is God is all. God is love. God is life. But if God is all, then that means you. That means me. At the same time, what is time and space? You can't have time if you don't have two things from which to measure distance, right? Okay. You can't have space without time, or time without space. So I got to thinking about God is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. How do you satisfy those conditions? How is that possible? And there's one thing that I came up with, and that was that drug-induced euphoric revelation that explained that only in an event, only being all, if you can take that literally, all is an event, and all of the parts that are included in keeping that event going, that's the all. That is what you are. You're being represented by a skin bag right now that's very important to you, because that's the tools. This is the tool bag that you've been given to see it from this point of view. There are many points of view. This is how does the thing go? Everyone has a rifle. This is mine. Same thing. I have a body. It's the same exact thing. There's only one God and always has been. And it is all. It includes the past. It includes the distant future. And it is from its point of view, there is no time. There is no space. So that satisfies those conditions that I'm omnipresent. I'm all things at all times. That means you and that means me. That means Abraham Lincoln. That means Neanderthals and mountains and squirrels, all.
It's very much an electric universe perspective. Because, I mean, in that they say, the universe is kind of like a torus, where everything's revolving around the center black hole. And that's all. That's what time is. Time is the sun moving around this black hole, because it's the sun moving through distance and dragging the earth behind it. So, I mean, saying that if you were an entity that's above the fourth dimension, which is time, then you would be basically up looking down at the torus field, seeing where you could see right now where we're at our point in time, and you could also see the Neanderthals at their point in time.
Except that you're again putting your point of view outside of yourself to see yourself. That's what I'm suggesting.
That's the overview. If there is a God,
there isn't one. There isn't if there is a God in the way that I'm suggesting. But we know
there are other dimensions. So other dimension is God too. Well, yeah, but I mean, in that dimension, time works differently, like you just said. Like there is no time in that dimension, which makes sense. So if this entity is outside of the dimension that we're in, where we see time, then they would be able to see time as everything that it's already been. But by that instance is like, time is expanding too, because everything is really a vortex.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting, though, is that if God is all, then God can't be outside of all. And that's what our brains just instinctively, almost hypnotically tries to do, is put God outside of everything.
We're trying to comprehend something that we can't comprehend.
Right.
Because literally we're inside of this. It's like asking the RAM of a computer what it is. It doesn't know that it's in a fucking computer.
Right.
There's no way it can tell.
But I think
it's fun to talk about.
Yes. And I think it's just made it easier for me. I don't recommend anyone else go down this rabbit hole this far, but for me,
I do.
It makes perfect sense that if I am part of all, then I don't have a beginning and I don't have an end. I have been occupying a space that was created by this event. This event was taking a corner, created a shadow. I get to participate in the being of that shadow of myself.
But I definitely think everyone should go down these rabbit holes, because
absolutely,
it's hard to think about these giant concepts. So what do we say? Whenever you do hard things, you get better.
Yes.
So when you stretch your mind out talking about these crazy concepts, you're actually becoming a better human.
Absolutely.
So I think that everyone should think about these things and listen to crazy podcasts like this. Chad, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today, and I'm so glad that you and I met at the point in time that we did.
Thank you.
It's going to be sad whenever you leave the state of Louisiana, and hopefully you'll come back on and join me for another day sometime.
I hope I get to join you in Arkansas one day.
For sure, man. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.